The wind howled through the jagged cliffs, carrying the kind of chill that sank into bones and stayed there. In the valley below, chaos brewed, shouted orders, the clatter of weapons, the low hum of imminent violence. But up on the ridge where the air was thin and the stakes were higher, Staff Sergeant Maya Carter lay prone in the dirt, her rifle a steady extension of her will. "Duddy," the commander's voice cut through the static of her earpiece, sharp and dismissive. "No one can make that shot, not from here, not with this wind." His words were a challenge, but Maya didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. Her hazel eyes, framed by dust and determination, stayed locked on the scope. 3 enemy commanders stood 1,200 meters away, shielded by concrete and arrogance, their orders about to unleash hell on her team. The mission was clear: stop them now, or watch everything burn. Maya exhaled, her breath steady, her heart a metronome. She wasn't just ready, she'd been forged for this moment 3 days earlier. Maya had stepped off a dusty transport chopper onto a remote base in a corner of the world no map dared to name. "Temporary assignment," the briefing officer had said, barely looking up from his clipboard. "Logistic support. No heavy action expected." No. But the soldiers who'd served with her before knew better. They saw it in the way she moved, quiet, deliberate, like a predator who didn't need to roar to be feared. Maya Carter was a ghost in the ranks, 17 years of service etched into her frame, but not her face. She'd seen Iraq's burning sands, Afghanistan's unforgiving mountains, and places so classified they didn't exist on paper. She carried no medals on her chest, not because she hadn't earned them, but because she didn't care for the weight of metal when she already bore the weight of loss. Her younger brother Daniel had been taken by a sniper's bullet in Fallujah. Her closest friend Maria had bled out in her arms in Helmand. Words had failed her after that, so she let silence speak instead. Silence, she'd learned, was louder than screams. The commander, a grizzled Navy SEAL named Captain Holt, stood above her now, arms crossed, his skepticism as thick as the dust swirling around them. "You're wasting time, Carter," he said, his voice low but biting. "That shot's impossible." Younger soldier, barely old enough to shave, snorted from the sidelines. "She's gonna try it from here." The others didn't laugh, but their silence was heavy with doubt. Maya ignored them. She didn't need their faith. She had her own. She adjusted her scope, the world narrowing to a pinpoint. 3 lives that held the fate of her team in their hands. 3 reasons she hadn't walked away when the nightmares clawed at her sleep. She could still hear Daniel's voice, a memory as clear as the desert sky. "Hey, take the shot, Maya. They'll never see you coming." Her finger rested on the trigger, not trembling, not hesitating, just waiting for the moment to shift the world. The wind dropped, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Maya's heart slowed, her focus a blade honed by years of pain. In precision, First Commander's head filled her scope, arrogant, unaware. She exhaled, squeezed, and the rifle's recoil was a soft thud against her shoulder. He dropped before his men could blink. The second commander turned, confusion on his face, but Maya was already ahead of him. Another shot, another body hitting the ground. The third tried to run, but there was no outrunning her. The final bullet whispered through the air, and he crumpled the valley, falling silent in the wake of her work. 3 shots, 3 kills. 3 futures rewritten in less than 10 seconds. Maya rose from the dirt, her face unreadable, her rifle slung across her back. She didn't look for approval. She didn't wait for applause. She just turned to walk away. But the ridge was different now. The soldiers, once skeptical, stood frozen, their eyes wide with something new: respect, awe, maybe even fear. "Captain." Holt's jaw was tight, his pride a bitter pill he swallowed in silence. He raised a hand, a salute that carried more weight than words ever could. One by one the others followed, a line of soldiers paying tribute to the woman they'd underestimated. The young soldier who'd laughed earlier looked down, his face flushed with shame. Maya didn't acknowledge them. Her actions had spoken louder than any speech, louder than the doubts that had tried to bury her. As she walked back to the base, the wind picked up again, carrying whispers of her name among the team. "Carter," they said, like it was a title, not just a name. Back at the base, the debrief was a formality. Your official report listed the mission as a success. But Maya's name was buried in the fine print, just another line in a sea of classified ink. That didn't matter. Word of what she'd done spread like wildfire from mess halls to barracks, from one base to another. 3 shots, 3 kills from a mile away, they said. The quiet one did it. Another story followed, quieter but just as powerful. She didn't miss because she didn't need anyone's permission to be great. The younger soldiers started looking at her differently, their bravado replaced by questions. How'd? She'll do it. What's her secret? The truth was simpler than they wanted to believe. Maya Carter was steady because she'd already faced the worst. Her heart didn't waver because it had already broken and rebuilt itself stronger. In the days that followed, Maya's role shifted. She was no longer the shadow in the room, the soldier they overlooked. Captain Holt, humbled but not defeated, pulled her aside one evening. Not support anymore, he said, his voice gruff but honest. You're leading the next. It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough. Maya nodded, her silence saying more than words ever could. The mission had changed her, not because she'd sought glory, but because she'd proven what she'd always known. Strength doesn't shout, it shows up, does the job, and moves on. The soldiers who doubted her now sought her advice, her training, her quiet confidence. She didn't demand their respect, she'd earned it, one impossible shot at a time. The story didn't end on that ridge. It spread, carried by soldiers who'd seen what she did, by officers who'd heard the whispers. It reached the families. Back home, the ones who'd lost loved ones to war and found hope in a story of someone who refused to break. A young girl in a small town reading about Maya on X decided she'd join the military one day, inspired by a woman who'd turned silence into power. A veteran, struggling with his own demons, saw the story and felt a spark of pride he hadn't felt in years. Maya's name became a quiet legend, not because she wanted it, but because the world needed it. Her shots had done more than stop a mission from Phalang Nade reminded everyone that heroes don't need to be loud to be unforgettable. This isn't just a story about a sniper or a mission. It's about the quiet strength that lives in the shadows, the kind that doesn't need a spotlight to shine. Maya Carter didn't ask for the world's attention, but she got it, not by speaking, but by acting. If her story stirs something in you, don't let it fade. Share it with someone who needs to know that courage doesn't always roar. Comment where you're watching from. And subscribe for more stories of silent heroes who change the world without saying a word. Be the one who carries their legacy forward. The wind howled through the jagged cliffs, carrying the kind of chill that sank into bones and stayed there. In the valley below, chaos brewed, shouted orders, the clatter of weapons, the low hum of imminent violence. But up on the ridge where the air was thin and the stakes were higher, Staff Sergeant Maya Carter lay prone in the dirt, her rifle, a